aware of any sort of office buzz that anything's being done on this? Are the reports being done? Is the OMB office in general working? Have you in meetings heard cross-pollination of any sort of conversations related to this executive order?
I'm not familiar with specific activities. It's not under my purview. I haven't spent my time on this.
Okay, that seems hard to believe. But moving on to something that definitely is under your purview. Last year, the Government Accountability Office released a report showing that during the first 3 months of 2023, 17 out of 24 agencies studied were using their buildings at 25% capacity due to telework policies. Is that still the case? Have you made progress on getting people back to work?
Thank you, Congressman. Yes, we've made progress. Agencies are implementing. That data shows two issues. One is where agencies were in implementing updated telework policies and longstanding challenges we have with having too much real estate within the federal government, an issue that existed long before this administration. With regards to where we are right now, in April of 23, so after that data, we directed agencies to take steps to substantially increase their in-person presence, to reflect their mission space, organize that around making sure that they're performing where there's similarities, where we have office workers, so we refer to it as headquarters and equivalents, in our guidance that they're achieving at least 50% in time with their ability to adjust accordingly. We're making progress. Agencies are still implementing.
Okay. I mean, for most of America, 50% would still seem like a low mark. I mean, granted, that would be progress compared to 25%. Yeah, and you do mention, like, maybe the buildings are too big for the right size. You know, in the private sector, we look at telework as, okay, you're going to maybe take a hit on productivity, but you're going to gain on, you know, you won't need the office space, and so you'll save money there, you know, and kind of how a business, but we never seem to see that same ROI when it comes to the, like, we don't have agencies coming to us and saying, well, we don't need this building anymore, or we don't need this office space, so we can reduce our budget here to make up for it there. So I would just encourage you to continue to work on that. Along those lines, it was reported that President Biden's chief of staff had to personally exhort cabinet secretaries to get their employees back to the office to just 50% of the time. Are we at 50% yet, or how's that going?
So about half of the federal workforce can't telework because of their job responsibilities. Our guidance was on focus on office workers. Where we are and what we've directed agencies to do is to monitor by hours. So what is the share of hours that are in person? Where we are for the federal government overall, again, half of our workforce can't telework due to their job responsibilities. Where we are overall is about 80% based upon the discussions that we've had with agencies to date.
Okay. The architect of the Capitol's Inspector General recently found 8% of telework eligible employees were getting improper locality pay, wasting hundreds of thousands of tax dollars. Is this occurring at AOC? Or if it is, you would think it's also happening at other agencies as well. How many federal employees have had their telework agreements revoked for misconduct, fraud, or other improper behavior, or simply poor performance?
Right. So for federal agencies, I think the specific issue you are speaking to is around appropriate locality pay or whether or not people are following their telework agreements. Each individual employee should have a telework agreement. They're responsible for upholding that. My expectation is agency leaders are holding them accountable to the telework agreements that they've signed. Similarly, if they've taken action where individuals are not in a consistent place with the locality that they should be in, agencies need to fix that. I'm not aware of this being a widespread issue.
I can appreciate you expecting that the work would be done, but, you know, it's been said, President Reagan, trust but verify. I've heard someone say, unless you inspect what you expect, you won't get what you expect. So I think it's important that you be well aware of where we are on this. One of the things that we've seen in DHS, for example, 336 individuals applied for COVID-19 relief funds while also continuing to be employed. So they were getting unemployment benefits while continuing to be employed and actually receiving overtime pay. And this is, we've heard stories of like this through the IRS and those kind of things. How many employees have been held accountable to that, have fired for basically essentially stealing from the taxpayer? What kind of accountability metrics have been put in place to not only make sure this doesn't happen again, but make sure that those who've done this are not in positions of public trust?
I'm not aware of the specifics of the DHS example that you cited. Federal employees absolutely are responsible for upholding the law, and they should be held accountable if they don't.
We agree that they should be. The question is, we don't hear that they are being held accountable. So my question to you is, do you know of cases where people are being fired for essentially defrauding the American people?
Fraud during the pandemic was a challenge that we face. I'm not familiar with the specifics of the DHS case. My expectation is that we also have inside of agencies, IGs, looking into issues such as that, and agencies should.
Yeah, a lot of this information comes from the IG reports, and the story we're getting is that nothing's being done to provide disciplinary action. So I'm asking you to, you know, if there has been, and certainly could you look into that?
I'm happy to look into those cases.
Thank you very much.